I am continuing to work my way through Before the Muses, an anthology of Akkadian literature. And as I've mentioned before, my plan of attack for reviewing this book is to do it section by section, and also to do any separate videos on any notable pieces. So I'm up to section 2, the classical period, which has a lot in it. I've made separate videos on anything I considered notable. And as somebody who is new to this and a non-specialist, I use the internet to help me determine what is notable. So my rule of thumb is something is notable if it had a Wikipedia page or other YouTube videos were already talking about that. And there were two things in this section that qualified for that. The Agushaya Poem, which I did a separate video on, and I'll link to it in the description down below, and Dialogue Between a Man and His God. Again, this had a Wikipedia page. There were a couple YouTube videos on it, although they were very short videos, but a couple YouTube videos already pre-existed. So I did a video on that, and I'll link to it in the description down below. And then there was one other notable one here, which is the Atrahasis. But I already talked about the Atrahasis in a previous video, reviewing a previous book. So I'm going to skip over that one for today. And again, I'll link to my previous video in the description down below. So let's get into it here, the classical period. So it starts off with the editor's introduction here, which is talking about what the classical period is. It seems like classical period seems to be synonymous with Old Babylonian period. So this is when various new people are coming into Mesopotamia, and Akkadian is establishing itself as the dominant language. Before, the dominant language had been Sumerian, but now it looks like the dominant language is Akkadian, and the Sumerian is still sticking around as a literary language. But it sounds like, if I'm reading this introduction right, by this time, most of the new work is being produced in Akkadian, although it's Akkadian that's somewhat influenced in its style by Sumerian. So we start off with the first section, which is various praises to deities. We've got to Ishtar, to Nany, which is, here identified with the planet Venus, and to Papulegarra, which is a god that is little known. So whoever this god is, this is... And then self-praise of Ishtar. Then we get to the Agushaya Poem, which I've already done a whole separate video on, so we will just skip right over that. It's a few pages. And we get to Legends of the Akkadian Kings, so Legends of Sargon. So Sargon was talked about before in the Archaic period, which is, he's a king from an earlier period. But I guess as we go through the ages, he gets increasingly mythologized in the later periods. Now, this is titled here Sargon, King of Battle. There is also a fuller work in the mature period, which is the next section of this book, which is called Sargon, King of Battle as well. And that looks to be a fuller version of the legend that's developing here. So I guess maybe we'll revisit this when we come to the mature period. But this is talking about Sargon's battles. And then, the Sargon Letter. Now this is... What do they call this? This is, a fictitious letter. Possibly this was for amusement or a scribal exercise. Yes. So studied in classical period schools. So Sargon didn't actually write this letter. It's a letter purporting to be by Sargon, but it's fictionist. And he's going on a siege. And it's just a list of all the different people he needs with him on his siege, which is an impressive list here. I mean, you can see some of this. Middle worker, seal cutter, silversmith, leather worker, potter, joiner, jeweler, reed worker, physician, barber, gardener, felterer, liners, fuller, rug beater, builder, perfumer, the itinerant merchant, customs officers, canal men, boat haulers, etc. It just goes on and on and on, this list of everybody he needs for the siege. And, you know, the introduction says, perhaps they were all required to come with him. I mean, who knows all what you need for a siege, huh? And then we have the legend of Naram-Sin. Naram-Sin, again, is a figure from the previous section, the Archaic period, but he's getting more mythologized in the later period. He was the grandson of Sargon of Akkad, who put down a big revolt. So this is the siege he does. Since most of the text is lost, fundamental elements in the plot are missing. So it's a bit of a struggle to read through this. But there it is. And then the Great Revolt, also under Naram-Sin. Now, the Great Revolt was something, again, that was mentioned in the Archaic period. And where is it? This is something that is going to get more mythologized as time goes by. So eventually the enemy... Or no, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. Oh, no. This is it. Eventually the enemy... here we go. The enemy has taken on an outlandish, supernatural character. And this is from section 3, which is the third, which is the mature period. Then we have Sin-Kashid, king of Uruk. So moving away from Akkad. This is a king of Uruk who is, I think, dedicating a temple, if memory serves. Hopefully I'm remembering all of these right. Then there's another Naram-Sin, but this one is not Sargon's grandson. This is a different one, king of a city called Eshnunna, who has taken the name Naram-Sin, borrowing from Naram-Sin of Akkad, Sargon's grandson. Now, what was this one about again? This is about him building a temple. And then we have Hammurabi, king of Babylon. Hammurabi is, of course, famous for his Hammurabi's Code of Laws, which is not reprinted here. Presumably because it would be too long to fit in an anthology book like this. But you can find Hammurabi's Code of Laws as a book easily enough if you look for it. And in fact, a few months ago, I got it out from my library and I reviewed it on this channel. So I will link to my review of Hammurabi's Code of Laws in the description down below. This contains the prologue, just the prologue to Hammurabi's Laws, and the epilogue to Hammurabi's Laws. So there's a prologue where he talks about how great he is, and there's an epilogue where he talks about all the oaths that everyone has to swear to uphold his laws. So, you know, if you take away any of these laws, may you get curses on you. Now, I guess confession time. I did not remember any of this from when I read Hammurabi's Code of Laws a few months ago. Probably I just don't remember it. I mean, it's possible this prologue and epilogue wasn't in the version I got from my library. And if so, I guess I didn't read it at the time and I've read it now. But I think the most likely thing is I just didn't remember it. But yeah, anyways, here it is. And then we got a couple more things about Hammurabi. So there's a poem about Hammurabi, What Do You Want? Which is basically saying Hammurabi is a really great guy. What are you waiting for? And then I think this is a divination made for Hammurabi. Will Hammurabi be victorious? Okay, and then we get another king, Samsuiluna, king of Babylon, who is Hammurabi's son and successor. This is a dedication celebrating his military achievements written by a scribe. Interesting note here, says it is noteworthy for its Mason scene in heaven, where Enlil tells Zaba and Ishtar, the gods of the city Kish, that they should stand by Samsuiluna, his chosen emissary. So I guess whoever the scribe was here, he was good at setting scenes in heaven. We see that down here. This guy here, I looked him up on Wikipedia briefly, and there's a lot more information about him on Wikipedia, but this is all we get about him in this book here. All right, then the next section is Royal Oracles and Prophecies. So these are from various gods, but, presumably written down by humans. From the god Dagon, from the god Dagon, from the goddess Ishtar of Nineveh, etc. And then we get the human condition dialogue between a man and his god. And this one I already made a separate video of and talked about. So we will skip right over this one. It's actually quite short anyways. Sorry, excuse me, 1 minute. Need to change hands. It's quite short anyways. It's just, you can see just a few pages. This, and this. But notable because it's apparently one of the first theodicies. Question of why do people suffer? So yeah, I already talked about that. Then we have At the Cleaners. Now, I mentioned before my policy for making separate videos. It had to be notable, separate Wikipedia article on it or something like that. At the Cleaners was a little bit borderline. I almost made a separate video on this because I'm pretty sure I remember hearing about this in one of the books I had read previously on Mesopotamia. I don't remember which one, but I think I've read about this somewhere before. And Wikipedia talks about this. It doesn't. As of this date, it doesn't have its own article. But if you go to the main article on Akkadian literature, Wikipedia does talk about this. It's noteworthy, I guess, because it's humorous, and because it gives some insight into daily life. So it's a sophomoric fop lectures a cleaner in absurd detail as to how to treat his garments. At least some of his instructions are ridiculous. The exasperated cleaner suggests that he lose no time in taking it to the river and doing it himself. So I'll just read a little bit of this to get the flavor. Come now, cleaner, let me give you a commission. Clean my clothes. Don't neglect the commission I am giving you. Don't do what you usually would. You should lay flat the fringe in the boulder. You should stitch the front to the inside. You should pick out the thread of the boulder. You should soak the thin part in a brew. You should strain that with a strainer. You should open out the fringes with clean water. You should, as if it were fine imported cloth, in the overnight, etc. And by the way, you probably already know this, but these dots indicate missing lines here, which is common all throughout this book. I guess, unfortunately, that's the state that Akkadian literature has come down to us in. Lament for a City. So this is a lament for a destroyed city. And the introduction here says that a city lament was a well-known genre in Sumerian. Wikipedia says it's a well-known genre in the ancient Near East in general. The biblical Lamentations being the most famous example. So apparently there are some notable laments for cities in ancient Sumerian and Akkadian literature, but this doesn't appear to be one of them. It's just, this is just a city. We don't know what it is about. Then the faithful lover. So this was interesting. It's between a man who the introduction describes as in love with a boar who has taken up with someone else. Despite his selfishness and abuse, she remains true and eventually wins her prize back. And it compares this to Song of Songs. Says, this Mesopotamian celebration of the power of love, regardless of the merit of its object, is a compassionate forerunner, full of life and humor to the portrayal of the woman's dilemma in the Song of Songs. So that Song of Songs, the biblical Song of Songs, right? Did the woman have a dilemma in Song of Songs? I guess I am overdue to reread that. And I will reread that soon, hopefully, as I'm working my way through the Bible. But it's, he and she hear a dialogue back and forth between them, as with Song of Songs. He's taking her for granted. She is talking about how much she loves him. And it's interesting for what it is. Love lyrics. So this is Nany and Muati. I looked this up on Wikipedia, and if I'm remembering right, Muati is very little known. But we have, these are, goddess of love. Oh, yeah, and Muati, a god about whom little is known. Yeah, it says it right there in the book. Also says it on Wikipedia, I believe. So there's this for them, and then Nany and Rim-Sin. Now, what was this one again? Okay, so this is Rim-Sin, the king, having sex with Nany, who is a goddess, but who is represented by the priestess. So the king having sex with the priestess representing the god. And this, by the way, excuse me one moment. I'm currently, at the same time, reading a historical fiction about Gilgamesh the king from ancient Mesopotamia. And they make much in this historical novel about that tradition of the king having yearly intercourse with the priestess who is supposed to represent the goddess. As a fertility ritual, which is very important to them at the time. So having read this book, it was interesting to see this ritual here. Sorry, having been reading this book, not done with it yet. And then, what was this one again? Where has my lover gone? I don't remember much about this one. I guess this is just a little poem about a lost lover. Apologies. There's a lot in here in this book. I did read it all, but some of it is stuck in my mind better than others. And then Cup and Shepherd. Now, this is, again, something I appreciated better because I'm reading this book here, where in this book, it makes much of the legend between Ishtar and Dumuzi. Dumuzi, I guess, is one of Ishtar's human lovers who starts out as a shepherd and then goes on to become a king, and then eventually she betrays him. There's this whole mythology behind him. And this is a song which I guess is from a lost, larger work called The Boy Who Loves Me, which I guess if we had it, might have given the legend between Ishtar and Dumuzi in more detail. But here it is. It's just a description of Ishtar fantasizing over the handsome shepherd boy Dumuzi. Yep, this is a woman addresses her lover. Maybe it's the goddess Ishtar speaking in the next one. Okay, and then incantations. This one is for someone who has never given birth. This one here is birth complications. This one is to calm a baby. And then there's against Lamashtu, who was also mentioned in the previous section, the Archaic period. So one of the most dreaded figures in Mesopotamian demonology. She attacks young women and small children. So there's a few incantations against her. Anu begot her. She is fierce. Some against demons in general. Demon against the evil eye. So here the evil eye, like a malignant monster, breaks into a home and wrecks the nursery. So this is an incantation against that. And then incantation against disease. So against various diseases here. Against all diseases. Against an infant illness. Against a mote in the eye. Against joint pain. Against the disease of sheep and goats. And I believe the joint pain here may also be for the livestock as well, the cattle. So, I guess in the ancient world, sheep, goats, and cattle were sources of wealth, right? So if they got sick, that was a problem. Against gas pains, this is short but sweet. Go out wind, go out wind, go out wind, offspring of the gods. Go out wind, abundance of the peoples. Go out of the head wind, go out of the eye wind, go out of the mouth wind, etc. Against stomach ache here. Against arousal, although they say the arousal may refer to the onset of sexual desire or anger. Against hunger and thirst. Against witchcraft. Against a noxious herb. And against dogs. The introduction here says, these grim descriptions of attacks by rabid dogs are remarkable for their stark power. I guess biting dogs were a problem in the ancient world, right? Especially if you lived in cities, especially before modern medicine. And then snakes. So we got a couple against snakes here, against the snake bite, the lurking serpent, against flies, against scorpions, against a water monster, against a bleeding goat. Oh yeah, this one was funny. So this one is apparently a parody. So it's a parody on the incantations. And this one is somebody getting way too upset that the goat is making too much noise. Again, they did have some humor in the ancient world. And then we get into the love charms here. Spells intended for men and women. So I think it's a little bit unclear here. Oh, no, it's not unclear. I think this is a collection. So this is not all one, but this is a collection, A, B, C. So each one of these is a different collection with parts for he and her. Interesting how, sorry, I'm choosing my words carefully here. There are some interesting descriptions here, talking about sexual desire. So, in your heart lies a dog, lurks a pig. You lie down with me, I'll pluck out your bristle. Get together whatever you have and give it to me. This is one that she says. I caught your leg, cuddle me like a puppy, mount me like a dog. I have hit you on the head. You will squirm around me on the ground like a something. You will the ground like a pig until I'll have my way like a child. Yeah, so there's interesting insights into sexual desire in the ancient world. I guess not much has changed. And then prayers. So to the gods of night, to Shamas and the gods of night. This is, oh yeah, it says here that these prayers were the daytime gods of extipacy. And I was thinking, what is extipacy? But it's actually defined on the next page. So extipacy or divination by examination of the entrails of a lamb, which I guess is exta, required a series of rituals. So these are some of the rituals for that. Here, there's one for the lamb. Prayer written as a letter, where will or two be alive and well. And then we get letters and letter prayer. So these are letters written to people, written by various people throughout the ancient world, and these are interesting. So we've got somebody who wrote a letter to Kusala. Sorry, he wrote a letter. The guy's name was Kusala, and he wrote a letter to the moon god. So somebody had borrowed money from him. They had taken an oath by the moon god that if he didn't repay the money, he would become infertile. The guy never repaid the money, but he went on to get married and have children. So, the moon god did not make him infertile. So here's somebody writing a letter to the moon god saying, look, that guy is making you look weak. He's not, if you want to keep your reputation, you better go make him infertile, just like you promised me. Let's see. Yeah. Prayer addressed to the goddess. She's not been looking after her protege. To various gods. Scribal petition. So the scribes were, I guess they made their living by divine patronage. It says here, graduates of scribal schools felt entitled to comfortable and remunerative positions. In hopes of these, they sometimes drafted elaborate petitions as samples of their abilities. So here's one petition here. And this is a ghost entreaty. It's not really a ghost. It's just the scribe is complaining that he's so poor. It's like he's a ghost. So, again, pleading for a position. This is a letter writing exercise. So it's has whimsical touches here. It can't possibly be real, but it was used in schools as an exercise in how to write a letter. And a declaration of war here. And then the last one in this section is the atrahasis, which I'm not going to talk about because I already made a separate video on the atrahasis when I read it in a different book. Other than to say that, this is a long. You can see it makes up the whole last section of this this section on the classical period. So it goes from page 227 all the way to page 289 is all this one work. And it includes several different versions of this work. So I guess the atrahasis, by the way, is the ancient flood story. The flood story that predates the flood story in the Epic of Gilgamesh. And I didn't quite realize how many different versions there were of this story. But we get, the Old Babylonian version, and then we get, looking through the Old Babylonian version, then we get like a newer version, the one from Syria, the late Babylonian version. I think we get the Assyrian version in here. So it does raise the question. This book is for the casual reader, right? This book is not for scholars. The late Assyrian version, yeah. Is a casual reader interested in wading their way through so many different versions? Or would just be just one version of this epic be enough for the casual reader?